Hello, here I am again. Today I'm going to chat a little bit about those feelings of not feeling good enough and possible reasons why we don't feel good enough, and a few tips to help us to stop those thoughts. Now, we have all at times in our lives felt that we're not good enough, we're not achieving enough. And some people are always putting themselves down and always never feel good enough. We're all good enough. We all live on this planet and we all have a part to play, and we're all here in our own unique roles. But it's true, we do go through times in our lives when we just don't feel good enough. I know I have done that, and I know I've been in situations where I've diminished myself because I haven't felt good enough, but normally because I've been comparing myself to others and their achievements, forgetting that they are human and that they are probably comparing themselves to others too. So reasons that we don't feel good enough. It's a story, very often it's a story that we're telling ourselves in our head, our inner critic. Critic ourselves constantly and allowing our inner critic to completely tear us apart and upset us and really stop our feelings of self-worth. Our inner critic does this to us. That's when we're so hard on ourselves. So this is one reason when we start to allow our inner critic to do that to us. We're in a toxic relationship, or we're surrounded with toxic people, or people in toxic relationships. So when we surround ourselves with critical people, with bitter people, with angry people, with not so nice people, people that constantly put you down, no matter what you do, no matter how hard you work or you try, they'll still put you down, and it can leave you constantly questioning your self-worth, your self-esteem, yourself. And we need to leave those sort of relationships. Now, sadly, sometimes some people in the workplace are like that. They're bullies. So when we're surrounded by bullies, and in the workplace, this can really happen. It can happen in families, obviously, as well. But for me, it happened in the workplace when I experienced this many, many years ago. It really knocked me. But I learned, that then I allowed that feeling of self-worth that they wanted me to feel. I allowed it to grow, and the only person who can stop it is us. And one of the best ways, if it's possible, is to remove yourself from that toxic situation and toxic relationship. So even if you're in a relationship, a personal relationship that makes you feel lacking in self-worth, like with somebody who's constantly putting you down, maybe you need to leave. You have to really consider leaving that relationship. Now, another reason is that why we don't feel good enough is maybe we had over-critical parents or even siblings, but as a child, maybe you were always expected to be smarter, sportier, prettier, quieter, noisier, etc. And that everything you ever did was not good enough, or you were being compared to a sibling or a cousin or somebody else. And the problem is, as a child, we will have internalized that message that we were not good enough as we are, and we probably don't have great relationships with our parents if you've been in a situation like that. Another reason is you may have experienced trauma in childhood. So childhood trauma is very difficult, and it diminishes a child's sense of worth almost instantly. And trauma as an adult, such as betrayal, and that happens a lot, can leave you feeling just not good enough and not worthy, and you'll keep questioning, why me, why me? So childhood trauma particularly can leave you with a very deep sense of lack of self-worth. You may have core hidden beliefs of low self-worth. These are definitely connected to beliefs that are buried in our subconscious, self-limiting beliefs that are stuck in our self-consciousness that we will have learned from childhood. Core beliefs are learned in childhood, whether it be at home or at school, and they will dictate the rules that we live by, our subconscious. And this is where you need to work with a coach or a therapist or someone like me who can help us dig this out and deal with it. Now, your mind can also be a very convincing liar, and it's very good at lying to you, or very good at believing it. We have to remember here that thoughts are not always facts. In fact, thoughts usually are not facts. And it's unhealthy to give power to these negative thoughts that we have about ourselves, okay? So don't believe your negative thoughts. Don't believe the stories in your head that you're telling yourself. And you need to talk back to them and talk back to your inner critic, because they're all in the same pot and they're all our personal little demons, always nagging at us in our brain, in our stomach, in our body, wherever. So talk back to your inner critic or to these thoughts when they keep reappearing, and don't believe them, and say things to it like, your judgment doesn't mean anything to me. You don't have any place in my life anymore. So really talk back to it and question it, and you can write it down in a journal and what you're thinking, and then talk back to it in a journal. It's a very good way of doing it. And we have to remember that failure is a part of life. Everyone has failed at something at some stage and will fail again. All successful people have failed. It's hard to believe, but yes, they have. And all successful people will also have had these inner critics and these down days and these questionable days. It's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes, because your worth is not based on your achievements. Your worth is based on you, the person. Okay. Now, how can we combat some of these thoughts and feelings? Well, we need to practice self-compassion and love, because it's when you really feel not good enough, this is when you really need love and deserve love the most. So you practice self-compassion, which means being kind to yourself, means understanding yourself, being more understanding with yourself. So when you fail or you perceive you fail, you don't beat yourself up. You understand. You are kinder to yourself. And love is very important here. Don't compare yourself to others, because you need to remember also that the people that you compare yourself to, they probably compare themselves to others as well. They feel the same as we do. It's just that they've maybe been able to hide it better or have dealt with it better. So it's unfair to compare yourself to the behind the scenes of you, to the highlights of somebody else, because they will also have behind the scenes that you don't see, just like they don't see you. Okay, so being kind to yourself is the most important thing. Replace criticism of yourself by saying things to yourself like, change is never easy, it's never going to be easy, But it's easier, it would be easier if I was nicer to myself or kinder to myself, and then start practicing that. Okay? And you need to start prioritizing yourself rather than prioritizing others. So you need to start putting yourself first. It will make you be able to respect yourself better, because if you always prioritize everybody else's needs and feelings over yours, then you have no self-respect for yourself. So you have to learn that self-respect for yourself by prioritizing yourself too. Okay? And if you're always prioritizing other people's needs and beliefs, it's a way of actually validating your feeling of no self-worth. So it needs to stop. Now, looking after your children and putting your children's needs sometimes first is important, I agree, but we're talking about adult relationships and work and all the other things. You don't need friends that put you down. Okay? You don't need friends that don't prioritize you sometimes because you need help or love. So remind yourself that if the feelings of not feeling good enough are painful, they're difficult, but they're not forever, they're not a permanent feeling, and these too will pass. Okay. Celebrate your wins, celebrate the things that are good about you, celebrate your successes. So even again, maybe you need to write these down in your journal, make a list of all the things you've achieved in your life, even the little things like the first day you rode your bicycle, or you passed your driving test, you had your first kiss, or you passed an exam or a test, or you went to the shops on your own for the first time. You know, all the little things, the little wins that you've had in your life. Write them down and celebrate them, as well as the big ones, and start to look at, wow, I do have more than I'm okay. Okay, even think about times when people have said really nice things to you. Celebrate those small wins and those small successes. And celebrating these past accomplishments will help you to neutralize those feelings of being not good enough. Okay, and get to know that part of you, that critical part of you that tells you that you're not good enough. Get to know it, write it down and talk to it. Say, why do I like putting myself down? Why are you always criticizing myself? And ask yourself, challenge that criticism of yourself. And you can always ask yourself, who said I'm not good enough? Not good enough for whom? See? Who said it? And instead of feeling like not good enough for whom, you could ask, are those people good enough for me? Because you have to put yourself into the situation that boosts you up, and you are good enough, and believing that you're good enough. Look at yourself in the mirror every day and say, you are good enough, you have worth, and you deserve every good thing that can possibly happen in your life. You deserve happiness and you deserve love. And if you're really struggling, book a session with me or another therapist or another life coach. We can turn your life around. We can stop these thoughts. Just respect yourself. Love yourself. Be kind to yourself. Appreciate yourself. And I'm going to say thank you for listening. I appreciate you. I appreciate you in every way. And most people at some stage will know how you feel. So thank you for listening. Good luck. I have faith in you. I believe in you. And remember, love yourself because you are worth it. Thank you. you for listening.